rushed violently under Obi, tossing his small canoe as if it meant nothing. He held tightly to the side of the wooden boat. His hands went numb from the freezing water splashing over him. His heart raced as the boat went out of control. The early morning mist had crept in faster than he thought, making it impossible to see the river banks or the dangerous current ahead. Obi tried to keep his balance, but the boat hit a ripping rock with a loud crash, throwing him into the fast-moving water. He moved without direction in the violent water, gasping for air as the river pulled him under. He could barely hear his own cries for help as the water took him under. His legs grew heavy and panic took over his mind as he fought to stay afloat. Just when he thought the river would claim him, strong hands grabbed him, dragging him onto the muddy riverbank. Gasping for breath, Obi lay on the ground, shivering as his mind raced. The faces of the fishermen who had saved him blurred in his vision, but their voices were clear. "You are lucky to be alive," one of them said. "The river is not kind to those who cross it in a haste." Obi sat up slowly, drenched, trembling, his heart still racing from the near-death experience. As he looked at the water rushing by, he knew that escaping Umukwe had almost cost him his life. But this was the path he had chosen, and there was no turning back. The journey to this moment had begun years before, back in the village of Umukwe, a place Obi had called home all his life. Umukwe was a village between hills and the vast flowing rivers of Anambra State in eastern Nigeria. It was a village of people who are proud of their traditions and ancestry. Umukwe was an old village deeply rooted in customs passed down through generations, and the people held onto their traditions with unwavering loyalty. The elders often said, "Our customs are the walls of our house. Without them, we are blown away by the winds of time." Among the people of Umukwe was a young man named Obi. He was the pride of his family and the hope of his entire village. His father, Nnanna, had worked as a humble farmer all his life, providing for his family through sweat and toil. He was known for his wisdom, and though he had little formal education, he had a deep understanding of the ways of their ancestors. Nnanna had always managed the little money he had. He saved some cash while sacrificing his comfort to send Obi to the city for his education. This was no small feat in a village where most young men followed their fathers to the farm, tending to yams and cassava as their grandfathers had done before them. Obi, however, was different. From a young age, he had shown remarkable intelligence and a keen curiosity about the world beyond the hills of Umukwe. He wanted to learn, to see the world, and to bring honor to his family. So when the opportunity came for him to study at the prestigious university in the city, Obi did not hesitate. He left the village with the blessings of the elders, who saw in him the potential to elevate the status of Umukwe. Years passed and Obi flourished in the city. He learned to speak English more fluently, studied the laws of the land, and even gained the attention of government officials who saw him as a rising star. When he finally returned to Umukwe, it was not as the boy who had left, but as a man now dressed in fine suits, with the knowledge of the world weighing heavily on his shoulders. His family and the entire village welcomed him back with a grand feast, filled with dancing and music. The people of Umukwe believed that Obi's education would bring great change to the village. They saw in him as the bridge between their ancient customs and the modern world. The elders particularly hoped that Obi would help them navigate the new challenges brought by the growing influence of the government and the changes happening around them. But Obi's return was not without complications. He had become accustomed to the ways of the city, where individualism and personal ambition often took precedence over communal values. He found himself torn between the traditions of his people and the modern ideas he had learned in the city. And it was not long before this internal conflict would be tested. This conflict was what led to the near-death experience he had at the river. This is how it all started. Upon Obi's return to Umukwe, Obi was expected to marry a woman chosen by his family according to the custom of the land, someone who would help him build a home and continue the family line. His mother, Adora, had already selected a bride for him called Amara. Amara, the daughter of Chief Okeke, one of the most influential men in the village. She was beautiful, well-mannered, and deeply respected by the villagers. To everyone, it seemed like the perfect match. Chief Okeke's family was wealthy, and a marriage alliance with them would elevate Obi's poor family even further. However, unknown to his family, Obi had fallen in love with a young lady named Nkim in the city. Nkim was smart, ambitious, and unlike any woman Obi had ever met in Umukwe. But she was not from their village, nor was she from their clan. Worse still, she was from a family whose lineage was considered outcast by the people of Umukwe due to an ancient curse. Obi knew that his people would never accept Nkim. The traditions of Umukwe were clear, in that a marriage to an outcast family will bring dishonor to not only Obi but the entire lineage. The elders would never allow such a union. Yet Obi could not bear the thought of living without Nkim. He was caught between his love for her and his duty to his family and village. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted on Obi. His family began making preparations for the marriage to Amara, while Obi remained silent, unable to reveal the truth about his feelings for Nkem. "I cannot marry Amara," Obi said quietly, staring at the ground. "My heart belongs to Nkem. How can I marry a woman I do not love?" His heart grew heavy with the weight of his secret day by day, and he often found himself wandering the village in solitude, seeking answers from the spirits of the land. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the hills, Obi found himself sitting beneath the ancient Iroko tree close to the village square. This tree had stood for centuries, its roots deep in the earth, and it was said to hold the wisdom of the ancestors. As Obi sat in its shade, contemplating his next move, an old man approached him. It was Chief Ikenna, one of the most respected men in the village, known for his insight and connection to the gods. Elder Ikenna sat beside Obi and spoke in a low, measured tone. "You are troubled, my son. The ancestors can feel the turmoil in your heart." Obi nodded, unsure of how much to reveal. "I am torn, Chief. My heart pulls me in one direction, but my duty pulls me in another. I do not know which path to follow." The chief's eyes, clouded with age, narrowed as he studied Obi's face and said, "The heart is a powerful force, but so too is tradition. In our village, we follow the ways of our ancestors because they have guided us through countless generations. But the world is changing, and sometimes a man must make hard decisions which might go against the popular belief." Obi looked up, surprised by the elder's words. "Are you saying I should follow my heart?" Chief Ikenna smiled faintly. "Only you can decide what is right for you. But remember, every choice has consequences. The question is, are you prepared to face them?" With that, the elder rose to his feet and walked away, leaving Obi alone with his thoughts. As the day of Obi's arranged marriage to Amara drew closer, the village buzzed with excitement. The women prepared elaborate meals, the men brewed palm wine, the drummers rehearsed their rhythms. It was to be a grand celebration, one that would unite two powerful families and bring prosperity to the village. But Obi's heart grew heavier with each passing day. He could not shake the thought of Nkem waiting for him in the city, unaware of the plans being in the village. The night before the wedding, Obi made a decision that would change the course of his life forever. Under the cover of the night, he slipped out of his family's compound and made his way to the outskirts of the village, where the forest met the river. There, hidden among the trees, he met with a trusted friend, Nnemeka, who had been by his side since childhood. "I need your help," Obi whispered urgently. "I cannot go through with this marriage. I must leave the village and return to the city," he said with a shaking voice and a sad face. Nnemeka's eyes widened in shock, asked, "But Obi, if you leave now, you will bring shame upon your family. The elders will never forgive you." "I know," Obi replied, "but I cannot marry Amara. My heart belongs to Nkem. I must be with her, even if it means turning my back on everything I have known." Nnemeka stopped for a moment, then nodded his head. "I will help you, but you must understand that once you leave, there is no coming back." Obi agreed with a sad countenance. He knew the gravity of his decision, but his love for Nkem outweighed the fear of the consequences. Under the cover of darkness, Obi packed a small bag with his most essential belongings. He had no clear plan, only the certainty that he could not go through with the wedding. He would flee to the city, back to Nkem, where they could build a life together, far away from the traditions that held him captive. But the journey was not as simple as he had imagined. As he made his way through the forest towards the river, the weight of his decision pressed down on him. He knew that leaving meant abandoning his family, turning his back on the village that had raised him, and shattering the expectations placed upon him. His heart was heavy, but his resolve was firm. When he reached the riverbank, his friend Nnemeka helped and prepared a canoe for him to cross the river, knowing that once Obi reached the other side, he would be far enough from the village to continue his journey to the city. "Are you sure about this?" Nnemeka asked once again. Obi nodded. "I have no choice. If I stay, I will live a life that is not mine." Nnemeka sighed, but helped Obi into the canoe. "Then may the gods protect you, my friend," he said. For hours, Obi traveled down the river, his thoughts consumed by the unknown future that lay ahead. But just as the early morning mist thickened and the current grew stronger, Obi's confidence began to waver. The river was far more dangerous than he had anticipated, and soon he lost all sense of direction. The canoe rotated wildly, and Obi's heart pounded in his chest as he struggled to control the small boat. Suddenly, the canoe struck something solid, a small rock perhaps, and Obi was thrown into the cold, merciless water. The shock of the icy river stole his breath. He thrashed wildly, trying to keep his head above water, but the current was too strong, pulling him under again and again. Just as darkness began to close in, strong arms grabbed him, pulling him to safety. The fishermen who rescued Obi were strangers to him. They were men from a neighboring village who had come to the river to fish at dawn. They helped him to his feet, offered him warmth and shelter as he recovered from his near-death ordeal. "You are lucky we are here," one of the fishermen said. His voice was rough but kind. He continued and said, "The river does not spare many who cross it in a haste." Obi nodded, still too shaken to speak. And as he sat by the fire, drying his clothes, he realized just how close he had come to losing his life. He had escaped Umukwe, but the path ahead was far from certain. Obi thanked the fishermen and explained his situation, but they could only shake their heads in disbelief. As days passed, Obi continued his journey to the city, where Nkim waited for him. They reunited with joy, but Obi could not shake the guilt that weighed heavily on his heart. He had chosen love over culture, but the cost was greater than he had imagined. The news of his escape reached Umukwe quickly, and the village was in turmoil. Chief Okeke was furious, demanding justice for the insult to his family. Obi's parents, especially his father Nana, were left to bear the shame of his actions. As the whole village, especially the elders, showed their displeasure to the family, Chief Okeke, seeing that he was humiliated by the broken engagement, withdrew his support from Obi's family, leaving them to fend for themselves. For months, Obi and Nkem tried to build a life together in the city, but the weight of the past was always there. Obi's heart ached for the family he had left behind, and though he loved Nkem, the pain of his choices haunted him. Years later, Obi returned to Umukwe, not as the pride of the village, but as a man seeking redemption. The elders agreed to meet with him, but the village had changed. Chief Okeke still had power, but his influence was waning. The younger men coming up questioned the old ways, and there were whispers that perhaps it was time for change. Obi stood before the council of elders, his head bowed in shame. He spoke of his love for Nkem and the reasons for his actions, but he did not ask for forgiveness. He had made his choice, and he would live with the consequences. The village listened, and though there were those who still held on to the past, there were others who saw in Obi a reflection of their own struggle. The tension between tradition and change, a tension between love and culture. Yes, Obi had gained love, but at the price of losing the pride and honor he once had in the village. Obi left Umukwe that day with his head held high, knowing that though he could never fully return to the life he had left behind, he had faced his past and made peace with it. The story of his dilemma would live on in Umukwe, a cautionary tale for generations to come, a reminder that the heart's desires are not easily reconciled with the weight of tradition and human expectations. It remains a constant reminder that while the heart may lead us in one direction, the weight of tradition and community cannot be easily cast aside. However, a person who wants to go against the norm must be ready to face his consequences however they come. That in itself is bravery, and life respects the brave. Thank you for watching the story. If you enjoyed the story and want to hear more captivating ones, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any episode. Kindly share your favorite lesson from today's video in the comments below. See you in the next story.